Hello dear students, welcome to our YouTube channel Smart PT Tricks. Today I am here in front of you with the good news that now we are starting our PT online classes. If you are interested, then contact us on the numbers given below. And thanks for your love and support. Keep supporting.
In reality, the causes of truancy and non-attendance are diverse and multifaceted. There are as many causes of non-attendance as there are non-attenders. Each child has his or her own unique story, and whilst there may often be certain identifiable factors in common, each non-attending child demands and deserves an individual response tailored to meet his or her individual needs. This applies equally to the 14-year-old who fails to attend school because a parent is terminally ill, the overweight 11-year-old who fails to attend because he is embarrassed about changing for PE in front of peers, the 15-year-old who is bored by lessons, and to the 7-year-old who is teased in the playground because she does not wear the latest designer label clothes. Economic dimension of globalization involves the international financial institutions, i.e. the IMF and WB. Stabilization and adjustment are sponsored by the two respectively and are rooted in the ideology of free market. At the other end of the spectrum, protesters see globalization in a very different light than the Treasury Secretary of the United States or the finance or trade ministers of most of the advanced industrial countries. The difference in views is so great that one wonders, are the protesters and the policymakers talking about the same phenomenon? Are they looking at the same data? Are the visions of those in power are so clouded by special and particular interests? At the moment, there are between 6,000 and 7,000 languages in the world. According to linguists, 50% of these are in danger of becoming, to become, became, of becoming, have become extinct. The speed of language loss has accelerated over the past few decades because businesses that need to communicate with a range of people from other cultures fancy must to employ more widely used languages such as English, Chinese, or Spanish. This attitude is understandable, but it means that many local languages are dying out before anyone having had the opportunity to study them. According to linguists, some of these languages could reveal a great deal, load capacity of useful information about language learning and cognitive development. Victoria University of Wellington has conferred an honorary degree on a distinguished astrophysicist in a recent graduation ceremony. Professor Warwick Couch received the honorary degree of Doctor of Science for his remarkable contribution to our knowledge of galaxies and dark energy. Professor Couch is a distinguished astrophysicist who has played a crucial role in the discovery that the universe is expanding at an accelerating rate, a finding which led to the lead scientists being awarded a Nobel Prize in Physics in 2011, which he attended in recognition of his contribution. After the violent earthquake that shook Los Angeles in 1994, earthquake scientists had good news to report: the damage and death toll could have been much worse. More than 60 people died in this earthquake. By comparison, an earthquake of similar intensity that shook America in 1998 claimed 25,000 victims. Injuries and deaths were relatively less in Los Angeles because the quake occurred at 4:31 a.m. on a holiday when traffic was light on the city's highway. In addition, changes made to the construction codes in Los Angeles during the last 20 years have strengthened the city's buildings and highways, making them more resistant to quakes. In the past, making structures quake-resist meant firm yet flexible materials, such as steel and wood that bend without breaking. Later, people tried to lift a building off its foundation and insert rubber and steel between the building and its foundation to reduce the impact of ground vibrations. The most recent designs give buildings brains as well as concrete and steel supports, called smart buildings. The structures respond like living organisms to an earthquake's vibrations. When ground shakes and the building tips forward, the computer would force the building to shift in the opposite direction. The new design should offer even greater security to cities where earthquakes often take place. In the southern cone, especially from Venezuela to Argentina, the region is rising to overthrow the legacy of external domination of the past centuries and the cruel and destructive social forms that they have helped to establish. The mechanisms of imperial control violence and economic warfare, hardly a distant memory in Latin America, are losing their effectiveness, a sign of the shift toward independence. Washington is now compelled to tolerate governments that in the past would have drawn intervention or reprisal. Throughout the region, a vibrant array of popular movements provides the basis for a meaningful democracy. The indigenous populations, as if in a rediscovery of their pre-Columbian legacy, are much more active and influential, particularly in Bolivia and Ecuador. Ernest Shackleton was a British explorer of the South Pole who is best remembered for leading his crew to safety after the failed expedition of the Endurance 1914-16. Shackleton had been a junior officer on Robert Falcon Scott's Discovery Expedition 1902-3, and his travels with the Nimrod 1907-9 had taken him closer to the South Pole than anyone before. After Roald Amundsen reached the pole in 1911, Shackleton and a crew of 28 men set out in his ship Endurance in 1914 in the hope of being the first to cross the polar continent. The ship was frozen in ice, then crushed, and Shackleton and his men set out in lifeboats after nearly a year and a half on the ice. In June 1998, an international team of Japanese and U.S. physicists unveiled strong evidence that elusive subatomic particles known as neutrinos have mass. These findings run counter to the standard model of particle physics, the basic theory about the structure of matter, which holds that these electrically neutral, weakly interacting particles have no mass. The discovery means that existing theoretical models of matter must now be revised to include neutrinos with mass. Neutrinos occur in three states: electron, muon, and tau, with the names signifying what is produced when a neutrino collides with another particle. Observers do not see the neutrinos themselves, but can detect the creation of electrons and muons from faint flashes of light following a particle collision.
The troubles of the individual soul. The verdict is never a reliable yes. One is never done with cycles of fear and reassurance seeking. Every time their spirits sink, which is often, the self-doubting sufferer picks up their phone and begs to know whether they have permission to go on. If this might be us, we should grow curious about, and jealous of, people who are free. They are so because someone long ago settled the question of what they were worth, and the answer has seemed solid ever since. Social media is a roar in the next valley, not a mob in their own mind.